Welcome back to my class students. Students, in the previous video I gave you the brief summary of this chapter, A Question of Trust, which is written by Victor Canning. Victor Canning is the author of this story, A Question of Trust. Now in this video we will do the detailed explanation of the chapter. So let's start the detailed explanation of the chapter. Chapter name is A Question of Trust, and the writer is Victor Canning. So let's start the chapter. It is said that you must set a thief to catch a thief, but it is also said that there is honor among thieves. Which saying does this story illustrates? So illustrate. There are two saying that हमें एक चोर को पकड़ने के लिए दूसरे चोर को अपॉइंट करना चाहिए, और चोरों के बीच में भी ये मान सम्मान होता है, आत्मसम्मान होता है, दे रिस्पेक्ट ईच अदर्स वर्क. सो इनमें से दोनों सेइंग में से कौन सी सेइंग, तो कहावत है जो कौन सी सेइंग को ये चैप्टर, ये स्टोरी इलिस्ट्रेट करता है, दर्शाता है. सो बिफोर वी स्टार्ट द चैप्टर देयर आर टू रीड एंड फाइंड आउट क्वेश्चन. वी विल रीड दिस चैप्टर एंड देन वी विल फाइंड आउट द आंसर्स ऑफ दीज टू क्वेश्चन. द फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज व्हाट डज हॉरेस डेनबी लाइक टू कलेक्ट? व्हाई डज ही स्टील एवरी ईयर? सो दीज टू क्वेश्चन है कि उसको क्या चोरी, क्या कलेक्ट करना पसंद था, एंड वो क्यों हर साल चोरी करता था. Right, so let's start the chapter. Everyone thought that Horace Denby was a good, honest citizen. He was about 50 years old and unmarried, and he lived with a housekeeper who worried over his health. In fact, he was usually very well and happy, except for attacks of hay fever in summer. So everyone means the society where he lives, the neighborhood where he lives. Horace Denby was 50 years old. Everybody used to think there that he was very good and honest citizen. बहुत अच्छा और एक ईमानदार नागरिक है. He was about 50 years old and unmarried. वो 50 साल का था और शादी भी नहीं थी, अविवाहित था. And he lived with a housekeeper who worried over his health. वो जो अब उसके पास एक नौकरानी भी थी और जो उसकी हेल्थ के बारे में चिंता करती थी. In fact, he was usually very well and happy except for attacks of hay fever in summer. और जब समर आते थे, जब गर्मियाँ आती थी, तो he had an allergy which is called hay fever, like disorder in your knees, on your nose. Whenever dust particles, sand particles goes into your nose, so you start sneezing, and some fragrance of the flowers, so not certain flowers, or maybe every kind of flower, certain flowers. Meaning is given, I will read out for you. Hay fever, a disorder affecting the nose and throat caused by allergy to pollen or dust. किसी pollen flowers और pollen में सुगंध आएगी, तो उसकी वजह से और डस्ट की वजह से हमें गले में और नाक में एलर्जी हो जाती है और छींकें आना शुरू हो जाती है, हमारी हालत ख़राब हो जाती है. तो वो बाकी समय तो ठीक रहता था, लेकिन जब गर्मियाँ आती थी और उस समय उसको ये है फीवर के लिए उससे परेशानी होती थी. In fact, he was usually he made locks and was successful enough at his business to have 2 helpers. So he was into locks business, ताले बनाने के काम में था वो, और काफ़ी सक्सेसफुल इतना तो था कि वो उसके पास 2 उसने अपने काम के लिए कारीगर भी रखे हुए थे, हेल्पर भी रखे हुए थे. Yes, Horace Denby was good and respectable. Yes, वो he was a good and अच्छा और एक रिस्पेक्टेबल आदमी था, बट नॉट कम्प्लीटली ऑनेस्ट, बट पूरी तरह से ईमानदार नहीं था. वाई? इन द नेक्स्ट पैराग्राफ यू विल सी. 15 years ago, 15 साल पहले की बात है, हॉरेस हैड सर्व्ड हिज फर्स्ट एंड ओनली सेंटेंस इन अ प्रिजन लाइब्रेरी. उसने जो अपनी पहली और आखिरी जो थी उसकी सज़ा थी, वो एक जेल की लाइब्रेरी में काटी थी. 15 साल पहले की बात कर रहा है. ही लव्ड रेयर एक्सपेंसिव बुक्स. उसे बुक्स जो काफ़ी रेयर, जो हर जगह उपलब्ध नहीं होती हैं और जो बहुत महंगी बुक्स होती हैं, उनका शौक़ था उसको. और वो सो ही रॉब्ड अ सेफ एवरीवेयर, इसलिए वो हर साल एक सेफ चोरी करता था. वो 15 years पहले की बात भी बता रहा है इसमें विक्टर कैनिंग की. जो हॉरेस डेनबी था वो कम्प्लीटली रिस्पेक्टेबल एंड ऑनेस्ट नहीं था, क्योंकि 15 साल पहले उसे जेल हुई थी. एंड ही वॉज that was the only time he was sentenced for prison, and in a prison library. So he used to love to collect rare and expensive books, and for that he used to rob a safe every year. Each year he planned carefully just what he would do. So every year he used to plan very carefully that what I have to do this year. Stole enough to last for 12 months, and how much I have to steal so that amount will last for a year, for 12 months, and secretly bought the books he loved through an agent. और वो चुपचाप गुप्त तरीके से एक एजेंट से वो बुक्स महंगी वाली और जो बहुत दुर्लभ होती हैं, महंगी होती हैं, उनको मंगवा लेता था थ्रू एन एजेंट. नाउ वॉकिंग इन द ब्राइट जुलाई सनशाइन. सो अब वो एक जुलाई के महीने में धूप निकली हुई है, उसमें चल रहा है. He felt sure that this year's robbery was going to be as successful as all the others. So he was sure that this year's robbery is also going to be successful like his previous ones. जैसे पिछली इसने चोरियां की हैं, सक्सेसफुल रहा, पकड़ा नहीं गया, तो ये चोरी भी सक्सेसफुली करेगा और पकड़ा नहीं जाएगा. For 2 weeks he had been studying the house at Shortover Grange, looking at its room, its electric wiring, its paths and its garden. So for the last 2 weeks he had been observing, studying, on collecting, gathering all the information about the Shortover Grange, about its rooms, about its electric wiring, its paths and garden. This afternoon the 2 servants, उस दोपहर को जो 2 सर्वेंट थे, who remained in the Grange while the family was in London. So जो 2 नौकर फैमिली पीछे छोड़ के गई थी इस आफ्टरनून को, वो भी कहाँ गए थे? had gone to the movies, वो मूवी देखने गए, फिल्म देखने गए. Horace saw them go, हॉरेस ने उन्हें जाते हुए देखा था. And he felt happy in spite of a little tickle of hay fever in his nose. So when he saw the 2 servants at Shortover Grange, family was not there, the 2 servants were there in the house, they went to watch the movie and he saw them going. He became happy, though he had a little tickle, means उसको थोड़ा बहुत उसको वो sneezing हो रही थी डस्ट की वजह से, धूल की वजह से, but he was happy, वो खुश था, है ना, कि वो जा रहा है, मुझे चोरी करने का मौका मिलेगा. He came out from behind the garden wall, तो गार्डन के पीछे की वॉल से वो आया. His tools carefully packed in a bag on his back, और जब वो गार्डन के पीछे उसके जो टूल्स थे चोरी करने के, जो इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स, all the instruments he had packed in his bag, and that bag was on his back. Now the next paragraph. There were about 15,000 pounds worth of jewels in the Grange safe. So in the Grange safe, he calculated, he knew when he gathered all the information, he gathered the information also that in that safe there were 15,000 pounds worth of jewels. If he sold them one by one, अगर वो उनको एक एक करके बेचेगा तो पूरी की पूरी कीमत नहीं मिलती ना, चोरी के हैं. He didn't have the receipt, उसके पास receipt भी नहीं होगी, he wouldn't have that. So when he will sell them, he thought that if I will sell them one by one, he expected to get, उसे इतनी उम्मीद थी कि at least 5,000 enough to make him happy for another year. इतने पैसे उसको मिल जाएंगे 5,000 पाउंड के करीब, तो उसका पूरा साल आराम से निकल जाएगा. He wouldn't have any problem for 1 year because he would get 5,000 if he thought so. There were 3 very interesting books coming up for sale in the autumn. In the autumn month, he knew that there were 3 very interesting books are coming for sale, and he wanted to buy them. And now he would get the money he wanted to buy them. और अब उसे वो पैसा मिल जाएगा जो उसे उन बुक्स को खरीदने के लिए ज़रूरी है. He had seen the housekeeper hang the key to the kitchen door on a book outside. He put on a pair of gloves, took the key and opened the door. He was always careful not to leave any fingerprints. So he had seen the housekeeper. When he saw that housekeeper is hanging the key to the kitchen door on a hook outside, एक किचन डोर के हुक है जो आउटसाइड है, उस पे उसने देख लिया था कि वो चाबी टांग रही है. He put on a pair of gloves. So वो उसने pair of gloves पहन लिए. took the key, चाबी उठाई and opened the door, और वहाँ उस चाबी से दरवाजे को खोल लिया. He was always careful not to leave any fingerprints, and he was always very very careful that he should not leave any fingerprints, as because he was very successful, and this was the reason that he was always very careful that कोई भी किसी भी तरह का निशान पीछे नहीं छूटना चाहिए था, ना उंगलियों के निशान, किसी भी तरह के निशान पीछे नहीं छूटने चाहिए थे. A small dog was lying in the kitchen. He saw that there was a small dog lying in the kitchen, means kitchen में वो लेटा हुआ था. It stirred. He moved. Stirred means वो हिला डुला. Made a noise. एक छोटी सी हल्की सी उसने आवाज़ करी. And moved its tail in a friendly way. और उसने the dog moved its tail in a very friendly way. बहुत ही अच्छे वे में, फ्रेंडली दोस्ताना वे में उसने अपनी पूँछ हिलाई. All right, Sherry, Horace said as he passed. When he passed the dog, he said, all right, okay, Sherry. He knew the name and he collected the information about the Shotover Grange. He collected each and every detail. So he knew the name of the dog also. All you had to do to keep dogs quiet was to call them by their right names and show them love. So he's saying that what you have to do, all you have to do, that you just have to call the name of the dog by their, if you're calling the dog, you have to call them by their name. And show some love, show them love. उनको प्यार दिखाओ, उनके नाम से बुलाओ dogs को, and they will not do any harm to you. वो तुम्हारे साथ दोस्ती वाला ही व्यवहार करेंगे. The safe was in the drawing room. Safe थी जो वो drawing room में थी. Behind a rather poor painting, एक बेकार सी उतनी अच्छी पेंटिंग, ठीक ठाक सी पेंटिंग के पीछे थी. Horace wondered for a moment whether he should collect pictures instead of books. So for a second, for a moment, he thought that instead of books, he should collect the pictures, he should collect the painting. For a moment he thought like that I should collect, rather instead of collecting the books or stealing the books, I should steal the pictures, painting. But they took up too much room. In a small house, books were better. The next moment he thought that pictures will take too much room, pictures will need a big space rather than books, because books will books will take small space, pictures will take large space. So in a small house, books were better. So he thought that छोटे से घर में books ही ठीक रहेंगे, because they will take less space as compared to pictures. There was a great bowl of flowers on the table. On the table there was a table also, and there was flower, and a large amount of flowers on that bowl. बाउल में काफ़ी तरह के फ्लावर्स थे. एंड हॉरेस फेल्ट हिज नोज टिकल, और उसकी नाक में खुजली होना शुरू हो गई और उसको छींकें आना शुरू होना एहसास हो गया. ही गेव अ लिटिल स्नीज, उसने धीरे से एक छींक मारी. एंड देन पुट डाउन हिज बैग, और अपना बैग रखा. ही केयरफुली अरेंज्ड हिज टूल्स. ही हैड 4 hours बिफोर द सर्वेंट्स रिटर्न. उसके पास हाउ मेनी टोटल आवर्स ही हैव? 4 hours before the servants returned. The safe was not going to be hard to open. After all, he had lived with locks and safes all his life. He knew that safe is not going to take too much time. He will be able to manage to open that, because for his whole life he was into the business of locks and safes all his life. So पूरी लाइफ उसने यही किया है, तिजोरियाँ बनाई हैं, खोली हैं, ताले से चाबियाँ लॉक्स खोले हैं. The burglar alarm was poorly built. He went into the hall to cut its wire. जो चोरी का अलार्म लगा रखा था वो काफ़ी व्यवस्थित नहीं था. It was poorly built, बहुत ही बुरे तरीके से बना रखा था. He went into the hall to cut its wire. वो हॉल में गया और उसकी वायर को काट दिया. He came back and sneezed loudly as the smell of the flowers came to him again. He came back, वापस आया, and sneezed, तो बहुत ज़ोर से उसने छींका, because the smell of the flowers went into his nose. उसको छींक आई, उसको दोबारा छींक आई, बहुत ज़ोर से छींका जब वो वापस आया अलार्म को काट के, क्योंकि जो खुशबू थी फूलों की उसकी नाक में जा रही थी. एंड ही हैड एलर्जी, ही हैड hay fever, एलर्जी फ्रॉम डस्ट एंड flowers. So my dear students, in this class we will study up to here only, and we will meet tomorrow again. Till then, take care of yourselves and your family members too. Thank you and have a nice day.